Madison Public Library connects us to the world, to information, and to each other. September is Library Card Sign-Up Month, so it's the perfect time to explore all that's available to you with a Madison Public Library card. Their online resources include access to the New York Times and the Washington Post, and my favorite, the Libby app, to download audio and ebooks from their collection. Visit madpl.org/signupmonth or stop into any Madison Public Library location to get a card and discover everything you can access with it. Today on CityCast Madison. You've likely heard of the 3 R's in sustainability: reduce, reuse, and recycle. And just as likely, you probably know that staying up to date on how to recycle can be a task. For example, can I still recycle plastic bags? And how clean is clean for items to go in our recycling bins? Plus, these rules change from city to city. Hello, Madison newcomers. To help you make heads or tails of Madison's recycling guidelines and also get some solid sustainability tips for fall leaf collection, we sat down with the program manager of the nonprofit Sustain Dane, Lorenza Zebell. It's Monday, September 23rd. I'm Bianca Martin, and here's what Madison's talking about. Hi, Lorenza.
Hi, Bianca.
So I'm really thrilled to have you. I know just how much knowledge you have about the sustainability world. Tell us about Sustain Dane and what your mission is.
Yeah, Sustain Dane. We've been around since 1999, local sustainability nonprofit serving Dane County and actually kind of anywhere. Some of our programs have been replicated throughout the state, so it's not just the county, but we focus our efforts here. We're based in Madison, Wisconsin, and we're a group that connects sustainability enthusiasts, professionals, people that care about the environment and climate change through education events and different programs that we run throughout the county. I like to think of us as like an arm for municipalities and residents that want to get something sustainability related done, but they may not have the capacity. That's where Sustain Dane can come in and get some things done.
Yeah, heck yeah.
And then our mission is to inspire, connect, and support people of Dane County to accelerate equity and sustainable actions for community well-being. So there's a lot of words there, but essentially, yeah, we're here to inspire people and to help them get their sustainability ideas done. Anything from recycling to solar, transportation, all the things that fall under that umbrella.
Do you have any kind of key programs and initiatives? I know that at least in part, we have chatted in the past with someone that you partnered with, Brian Johnson, who manages our streets and recycling. And I know that you guys were involved in kind of the recycling program, a class that you guys all offer.
Yeah, I mean, the programs, it ranges. It's huge. Because sustainability is so broad, it's huge. I'll get to recycling in a second, but just briefly on the other sections of work that we do, it's a lot of education. So things like recycling or water or anything environmentally related. But also we have a segment that's business education. So local businesses come to us for connection and kind of professional support on sustainability related projects. Like if someone wanted to put solar on their building, they could come to us and we could connect them to different people that could help them get that done in the community, the utility, different solar contractors. That's just one example. And then we do a farmers market food scrap drop-off program. So at farmers markets across Madison, we are accepting food scraps, taking them to a farm on the south side of Madison called Neighborhood Food Solutions to be composted. We do work in schools right now where kids that don't finish their lunches can put that extra food on what we call share tables. So kids that are hungry can then use that food. They can take it with them. They can eat it at school. That's to prevent food waste. So there's so much more, but that's a small taste. And then for the thank you. For the recycling program, that was back maybe 4 years ago. Brian Johnson from the city of Madison approached me and asked us to develop a recycling education program because they were seeing a lot of contamination in the recycling stream, which can be a pretty serious issue. And really, the only way to combat it is to get that knowledge into the hands of residents.
And that is one of the exciting things for us that we have you on the show to help us think about how we can be better recyclers. The last time we talked with Brian, that show was extremely popular. People wanted more. I'm like, we need to talk to Lorenza.
Nice.
And it's fall, and we're thinking about our leaves. So with the leaves and brush starting to accumulate in people's yards, that's something we have to consider. How can we manage this byproduct of beautiful autumn in an environmentally friendly way?
That's a really great question. I see where you're going now with the seasonal question. So we're a source of sustainability knowledge at Sustain Dane. So this is one thing I do like to talk about this time of year. More than half of the annual amount of phosphorus in urban stormwater can come from leaves in our street. So that's, as residents, we can control the water quality in our beautiful lakes. And so when it rains, stormwater flows through these piles that we may leave in our streets, and it creates something that folks call leaf tea. So it's like basically tea leaves for the rain, which has that phosphorus in it. And that goes through the storm sewers directly to our lakes, rivers, and streams. So too much phosphorus leads to those algae blooms that we don't like, not good for the animals living in the water, and also not good for like us enjoying the water. So what do? You can sign up to get alerts from an organization from the county. It's called Ripple Effects. You can sign up to get text alerts before large rain events. And that alert will let you know that you got to rake the leaves out of your street and onto kind of that side part of your lawn, like the easement, not your lawn, but not the street.
Yeah.
You can also bag them, just getting them out of the street before those big rain events is great.
A little thoughtful detail for fall. But sustainability practices and recycling is something that is perennial. It's going on all year. So do you have any special recycling programs specifically that residents should be aware of?
Yeah, so at Sustain Dane, we have that education program we developed with the city. It's called Recycle Better, and you can learn about it at sustaindane.org/better. There's also some tips there. And we run it a few times a year, maybe like 2 or 3, and sometimes in person, sometimes online to increase accessibility. It's just me and Brian Johnson from the city talking recycling for a few hours. And then participants learn a lot, and then they go out in the community and teach others what they've learned. Over the years, we've had over 1,000 participants. I think I'm at 1,200 now. And impacted with outreach, we've had over 80,000 people. So it just keeps growing every year. I am so shocked by how many people want to learn about recycling, and also pleased. I'm very happy about that. It's a fun group, and it really builds that kind of like ripple effect of knowledge in the community with the outreach project portion, where you got to talk to your friends, your family, your coworkers about what you learned.
And is it just me? How often are the recycling rules changing? The processes. I assume that the city learns things and things get shifted. But I was shocked at a number of things I had no idea were rules of recycling, let's say.
Yeah, it's a really good question. And this is kind of why the class came about. It's because recycling is driven by markets. There's no national recycling standard. Looking to national resources, like if you Google, is this plastic bag recyclable, or even the product labels on the things you buy at the store, if you look at those, they can be really misleading because there's no national standard. It's really localized. Luckily, here in Dane County, most places are served by a materials recovery facility called Pelletary, and they're great. They accept a lot more than a lot of other places, so we're really lucky for that. And then when they find a new market, so like a new buyer for a certain material, like those coffee cups, for example, that's when we can suddenly start accepting the material. Or unfortunately, sometimes the market kind of dries up. Like the grocery bags, we no longer recycle those in our carts in the city of Madison. Used to be able to bag them up and put a bag of bags in your cart, but that is no longer an option. And that's just because we don't have anywhere to send them anymore. But some people do. Locally, I know that they're accepted at Festival Foods, Hy-Vee, a lot of grocery stores. You should check the one you frequent. Will accept those plastic bags right at the front door.
One thing that I feel like I was shocked, and maybe it was because maybe it was when I was out and about with you at some point. But you're not supposed to crush cans. Is that one?
Right.
That's one of the tips that really surprised me. And now I tell people, because I remember you pointing that out. And I tell people, they're like, wait, what do you mean? Because as a kid, what did we do? It's like, they want your cans. Well, people actually buy your tin cans. But what's the rule around cans? We're not supposed to, smash them on our heads anymore?
Yeah, don't crush those cans, because the rule there is that size and shape of all the materials, not just cans, but all the materials matters. And that's because it's all single sort, right? It all goes into one bin, and then it goes to the materials recovery facility, and they have to sort all the different materials. Like a recycler for cans needs them all together, not contaminated by the plastic things. And it's kind of technical, but the reason is there's something called an eddy current, because aluminum is not magnetic. So the eddy current magnet repels the aluminum can, and it needs to fly through the air to the spot where it needs to go. There's actually a great video on sustaindane.org/better depicting this. And then also another reason is if you crush it too flat, it'll accidentally move through that system and go to the paper zone, because all paper, including cardboard boxes, is supposed to be flat. So then you'll get cans contaminating the paper recycling.
I'm so glad that I know you, and I'm so glad we're talking to you so other people know, don't crush your cans. It's a problem in the assembly line. So you're listening to CityCast Madison. You clearly care about what's happening in our city, and you have excellent taste in podcasts. I've got a recommendation for another local news podcast you gotta check out. It's called 365 Amplified. Every week, the award-winning reporting team behind Madison 365 digs into their most important stories from the week. Stories and perspectives you likely won't get from other mainstream outlets. They invite community leaders, lawmakers, artists, and more on for candid conversations. Recent guests have included former Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes, State Assembly candidate Renuka Mayadev, and Olympic 200-meter silver medalist Kenny Bednarek. Yeah. Look for new episodes every Friday at madison365.org/amplified or search 365 Amplified wherever you're listening to this right now.
Think scaling AI is hard? Think again. With Watson X, you can deploy AI across any environment. Above the clouds, helping pilots navigate flights, and on lots of clouds, helping employees automate tasks. On-prem, so designers can access proprietary data, and on the edge, so remote bank tellers can assist customers. Watson X works anywhere, so you can scale AI everywhere. Learn more at ibm.com/WatsonX. IBM. Let's create.
What are some more of your top specific recycling tips for recycling in Madison?
Well, if you only remember one thing, just remember that it's local. It's not like the label on your bottle is not always telling you the truth. You got to know your local guidelines. And then some fun facts that I like to share that comes up a lot in conversations that I have about this is that cartons are recyclable, and a lot of people don't know that. So juice boxes, like those juicy juice boxes, milk cartons, those boxes of soup that you might get.
Like a chicken stock?
Yes, chicken stock, exactly. Yeah. Wine
Vegetable
sometimes
broth?
comes in boxes. Yeah, veggie broth, cream, egg whites. They're all over the grocery store once you start looking for them. And yeah, they are all technically recyclable here in Madison. You just pop the caps back on. If it's a little juicy juice box, you can pop the straw back in the box and then toss it in your recycling. And again, don't crush those. They got to be 3D. Otherwise they contaminate the paper.
Wow. More.
Okay, cool. I've got more. I could go on forever. That's what the whole program is. Yeah. So plastics, that's a big question. It's hard to cover it all in a short time period because it's all around us, right? Everyone listening, if you look around, you can probably spot 10 different types of plastics in your space. And what I like to tell people is that those numbers on them they're called resin ID codes, and they were actually lobbied to be on there by the plastics industry. So they don't really, even though they have the chasing arrows on it, this recycling symbol, they don't actually mean that it's recyclable. The plastics industry just wanted them on there so that we kind of reduce our guilt for buying
Wow.
plastic items, and then we just continue buying them.
So just to confuse everything.
Yep, it just made it a lot harder. And yeah, sometimes you'll see it gets even more confusing with labeling. Sometimes they say how to recycle on them and have like a big symbol, like a lot of those mailers, the like air-filled mailer things that come in your Amazon boxes. Those will often say how to recycle. But that item is essentially number 4 plastic, which is LDPE, flexible, the kind of soft plastic, just like a grocery bag. It's not recyclable in our system.
So that's something to pay attention to keep those things out. Are there other items that often turn up in recycling that are not actually recyclable?
Yes. Yeah. Really great question. Because that's where this all came from is the recycling plant has to deal with these things. And I'd say the main thing, the number one thing that I like to tell people to remember not to put in your recycling is batteries, because they can be quite dangerous, actually. Not all batteries are dangerous to put in there, but no batteries are recyclable in your cart. So you can start there. But then beyond that, we've got alkaline batteries, which can be recycled at drop-off sites, but technically they can go in the landfill. I like to say to people, take them to the drop-off site. But then the scary ones, the culprits of these fires that happen are lithium ion batteries. And those are the batteries that are in our cell phones, our computers, they're in children's electronic toys, they're in hearing aids, those tiny little like button shaped batteries. They're a little silver button. Those are lithium ion and they retain some charge even after they're technically dead and can spark. And as you can imagine, once those make their way, if they accidentally make their way into recycling streams, they can light all that paper recycling on fire. And these fires are really common. As we have more and more of these electronics in our lives, they're seeing more of these fires in trucks, at recycling plants. It burns recycling. It's dangerous for the people working, the drivers of the trucks, for people working at the plants. So we really got to make sure to take those to drop-off sites. So the city has one, and then there's one at the landfill, and then some retailers will also take them, like Batteries Plus.
And those have certain hours. These are also the drop-off sites that you can drop off styrofoam and other materials, right?
Yeah, they've got certain hours and not always convenient for people. But if you have thoughts on that, you can email Brian at the city. Sorry, Brian.
Well, they also have, it's like kind of seasonal. It's something that, and we'll throw that into our show notes, but you should pay attention and check out which sites are open at which hours. Cause I've seen it shift, at least in the time I've been back in Madison.
And if you want to keep them saved up at your house and you're worried about safety for that, just tape them up. So cover them in tape so that their ends can't touch each other and spark. I've seen, some friends with that plastic bag full of batteries, and some of them are lithium ion. And you got to tape those up to make it safe.
I'm that friend. I needed this tip. Because I have a little, like an area that I'm collecting them to drop them off specifically. So that is really, really helpful. Can you elucidate? I should have asked a second ago, but now I'm just chomping on it. The symbols, like what the rules of thumb. Can you give us a little bit of information on how to navigate looking at something and knowing this is recyclable in Madison?
Yeah, really good question. I should have continued talking about those plastics because technically, if it's a container, a plastic container, number 1 through number 7, which is all the numbers and all the resin ID codes, if it's a container, it's technically recyclable here in our carts in Madison. And, people ask me, what's a container, Lorenza? Like, we need more. So I like to give some examples. This right here, I've got a plastic cold coffee cup. That is technically a container. Oh my gosh. But of course, cups are the exception. So not all the numbers. That's the one time the numbers come up. Of course, the thing I grab is
it's okay. No one can see you. Except for me. You're looking at like kind of classic iced coffee cup. Yeah.
Iced coffee cup. Most of them are number 1, and those are good to go. Most plastic bottles, those are containers. Those are good to go, and they're usually number 1. But when you get into like those deli containers, it doesn't matter the number really. They're probably good to go because they're containers. Or like the containers, clamshell containers that you might get like a salad in at a grocery store.
You can get that yummy Bunky's hummus in.
Totally. I am a big fan of Bunky's hummus. Yeah. If you wash that out, if it's, clean enough, then totally good to go recyclable. But the things that aren't are like bulky plastics, like maybe a laundry hamper, a kid's toy, like things that are bulky that would you can't imagine it going down a conveyor belt in the recycling plant. And then also those very flexible plastics that are so soft that you can tear them with your fingers in the way you can tear a grocery bag with your fingers. Those gum up the system and they're not recyclable.
This is helpful. And the numbers, it's generally 1 through 7. Containers are good to go, but it's actually like kind of like what the plastic is, what the material is, and the bulky ones are garbage.
More about the material. I would say don't pay attention to the numbers unless it's for cups. And that really just try to avoid like the red Solo cups because those are number 6, which is not recyclable. Try to stick with stuff that's
the beer
like
pong
number 1
cups.
Yeah, the beer
the party
pong cups. I know.
So stop buying them, maybe.
Yeah, or get better ones. There's like they even make even better than plastic because ultimately, what I want to encourage everyone to do is avoid plastic as much as possible. But I say that having my boyfriend brought me a lovely plastic cup of coffee this morning, so it just happens sometimes, but. For the party, if you're planning, you can go out and get those aluminum cups because that's highly recyclable. It's just infinitely going to be able to become more aluminum cans or cups. So,
okay, that's huge. Well, Let's go beyond recycling just for a minute here. I know you have your head in sustainability. So, what other sustainable practices are top of mind for you that folks should maybe consider adopting to reduce their environmental impact?
That's a great question. I love that question. And I would say do whatever makes you feel good. Everyone doing what is sustainable, as in like they're able to do it long term for them, is better than just a few people doing everything absolutely perfectly. Everyone just trying one little thing. And then also focus on what adds to your life. A lot of times sustainability is framed as a restriction, but it doesn't have to be. For me, it really isn't. So the things in my life that add to my life that are more sustainable are I love going to the farmer's market and getting local food that is plant-based. It's, of course, really good for my carbon footprint, for the emissions impact of my lifestyle, but also the food is better. Cooking with it is more fun. Eating seasonally is just way more delicious. And then there's community involved, going to the market, meeting the farmers. There's so many additional benefits, And then another one that I know you're a fan of is buying clothes used, vintage clothing.
We met at the vintage store, or we actually met at WSUM.
Yeah, lots of interests here. But getting clothes secondhand, it's a big polluting industry to get fast fashion clothing. And I know it's convenient, but also there's this huge community in Madison that you can go out and find some beautiful, high quality secondhand clothes.
Absolutely. I love that. Well, before we let you go, we should know that Sustain Dane, you all have a summit in November. You are continuing on in your education efforts, so we definitely want to shout that out. And I wanted to ask, how can folks get involved with Sustain Dane's efforts to promote recycling and sustainability in Madison?
Yeah, so people can reach out to me. I have in my email signature, I have a calendar link. So you can schedule a meeting with me, talk with me. That's a big part of my job, is just building community around this. And my email is lorenza@sustaindane.org. So that's LORENZA@sustaindane.org. And then I will definitely encourage everyone to come to the summit. I love the summit day. It's a very fun day, even for me with the stress of planning it. It's just last year, a participant called it a high vibe affair. And I was like, all right, I really like that. I'm going to use that. But yeah, it's like if you want to come and think about the environment and how it relates to your life, to your work, to our lovely city with like-minded people, it's a really great day. And we've got Esha Chabra, who's an author of a book called Harnessing the Power of Regenerative Business to Heal the World. And she's our keynote this year. And then we've got a bunch of local leaders featured throughout the day. It'll be a really fun time.
Well, that sounds incredible. And under your leadership, I'm sure it's going to be stellar, as it's been. Thank you, Lorenza, so much for coming on and giving us sustainability and recycling tips to think about as we enter this new season. And yeah, we love you.
Oh, I love you too, Bianca. Thank you.
That's Lorenza Zebell, Program Manager for Sustain Dane. If you want to learn more about Sustain Dane's efforts or City of Madison's recycling drop-off sites, head to our show notes for links. That's all for today, here on CityCast Madison. I'm Bianca Martin. If you enjoyed this show, why not share this episode with your most environmentally conscious friend? We'll be back tomorrow morning with more stories from around the city. Until then, reduce, reuse, and recycle.